on the screen, it means you're a winner and you get your alert almost immediately. So please play as many times as you can. I always check the time and calculate how many times you should have played. It's 7:24. So every 30 minutes you should have played like 30 times. So if it's 7:24, the show started at 6. Calculate. That's how many times you should have played by now. So keep playing and let's go. But this morning, we're looking at two very important topics like we always do on the big issue. Yesterday or over the weekend, Alfred Okanse of the Ghana Tonight team had an exclusive conversation with former Chief Justice Sophia Akufo. And she's been talking about a lot of things. You remember she was one of the people who picketed at the time when the whole brouhaha about pension funds, started, and the domestic debt exchange program also began. Now, since then, she's been speaking and making her voice heard. Now, recently, she touched on the SSNIT sale of hotels, and she thought that it was the wrongest move for SSNIT to embark on, especially because she accused governments of deliberately running down state-owned businesses just so they can sell to themselves at very cheap prices. And SSNIT, in turn, has responded. We'll read that response very shortly. And then after that, we'll also go on to Kweku Kwarteng, former Deputy Minister of Finance. He also served as the chairman of the Finance Committee in Parliament until recently when there was another reshuffle. Now, he also penned an article where he said that Ghana's economy is being run like a Ponzi scheme. In fact, he says that we are at a disastrous point, and if we don't do anything about our situation, we just might fall flat as a nation. Is he bitter about this? He says, no, he's not bitter because he's been taken out of office, because in actual fact, there was an opportunity for him to even take up a position as Minister of State in charge of finance in the country. And so he's not bitter, he's just speaking the truth. Joining us to have this conversation, we have in the studio Osman Ayariga. He's the Deputy National Youth Organizer for the NDC. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
I saw you yesterday. I'm seeing you today as well.
For God and country.
For God and country,
yeah.
Anyway, good to see you in the studio.
Good to see you.
And, well, I haven't seen her in how many years? But, well, I get to meet her on the show. She returned recently. I watched her about 2 weeks ago, and here she is again on the show. Susan Edua-Mankwa is a member for the Alliance for Revolutionary Change. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Very well.
You look very beautiful this morning.
Thank you.
I'm loving the fabric.
No ambush today.
Oh, no. I don't ambush, actually. I'm actually a very nice person. I'm really nice. And also joining us later via Zoom, we'll have Professor Godfred Bokpin. He's an economist, and he'll join us when we have that conversation about what Honorable Kweku Kwarteng said concerning how we're running Ghana's economy. But let's take you back now to the SSNIT conversation. For those of you who missed out on that exclusive conversation that Alfred Okanse had with the former Chief Justice, take a listen and take a look at what she said exactly, and then we'll come back and read SSNIT's response to her.
I've run down the hotels, and just like in the public sector, a lot of public properties have been run down just so that the values will be run down, and always at the end of some cycle or the other, they do sweetheart deals and do distributions among themselves. SSNIT can say I've defamed them. I don't care.
So this is the former Chief Justice. In fact, she was Chief Justice from the onset of Nana Akufo-Addo's government up until 2019 or so. And so if she's speaking about how there's a deliberate attempt by some officials to run down state-owned properties so that they can get into some sweetheart deals and share it amongst themselves, she's speaking from, now she's not in there, but from within government at one point in time. Does it mean that she's privy to information that many of us may not be privy to, which is why she boldly says this? Because she says that even if SSNIT cites her for defamation, she really doesn't care. She's only speaking her truth. But SSNIT has responded in a statement. They released this yesterday, and it reads that SSNIT's response to Ms. Sophia Akufo's comments on sale of hotels. So I'm just going to run through exactly what they said. It's just about 2 pages, and so bear with me as I go through this. So it says here, and I'll start off by saying, okay, so the attention of management of Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SSNIT, has been drawn to comments made by the former Chief Justice Sophia Akufo on TV3's Ghana Tonight program on Thursday, the 25th of July, 2024. The management of SSNIT wishes to respond as follows, and it says, 1, that the former Chief Justice claimed that the SSNIT hotels were run down deliberately in order to devalue the assets and distribute them amongst themselves is a serious accusation and rather unfortunate. We wish to emphasize that the allegations of deliberate mismanagement of SSNIT hotels are false and undermines integrity and confidence in the pension scheme. Allegations of this nature without substantiated evidence create unnecessary tension among stakeholders and potentially detracts the public from the constructive dialogue needed to address genuine issues. Contrary to the allegations, SSNIT put in various measures over the years to improve the performance of its hotel investments before deciding to sell parts of its shares to a strategic investor. SSNIT restructured the ownership of the hotels, brought in private hotel management companies, made changes in management and the board where necessary, provided financial support, including the funding of maintenance and capital expenditure to make the hotels more competitive. And we have previously noted, although we've seen some improvements in the performance of the hotels, that this has been far below what we require to finance growth and capital expenditure. Returns have been low or negative, and most of them have been making persistent losses and not paying dividends. Hence, the steps to bring in a strategic investor, which we have now terminated. And so this is their response. They go on to say that the decision to divest was aimed at enhancing the performance of SSNIT, etc., etc. And so we wish to assure pensioners, contributors, and the public of our commitment to managing the assets of the trust in a manner that will ensure the long-term sustainability of the scheme. So this is their response to Madame Sophia Akuffo. And I'm going to start off with you, Susan. I mean, woman to woman, looking at what the former Chief Justice said, was this the right time to speak on an issue like this? Looking at, you know, SSNIT coming out to indicate that what she said was in bad taste.
Well, I mean, as you said, she was speaking her truth, and she went on to talk about conflict of interest. The whole deal was so fishy. It was just so bad and sleazy, you know. It was wrong. You know, I know that Honorable Okudzeto talks about some illegal things that were done, but even on the surface of it, without anything being legal, it was unethical. There was so much conflict of interest, you understand? And it, you know, when you are a public person, you have to be above board in certain things. You have to be about, you know, without blemish. It doesn't have to be the sin itself. Even the appearance of the sin is wrong. And conflict of interest is about potential, the potential conflict of interest. So it's not about even having an actual one, but the potential. And so you have public persons going out to buy state's property. You know, it just is not right. You get it. Okay. So let's even just put that nothing illegal was done. And so we're giving them the benefit of the doubt in terms of that. The whole deal was wrong. And she, being who she is, if she may have a certain knowledge, you know, in that she may be speaking from that knowledge and from that background, that they do run these things down. Because, and then buy and sell it to themselves. Why would you, if you are in public office, and you can offer help in terms of managerial skills to do something and make it better for the good of us, because it's our collective property. Why don't you put those skills to use? Or why don't you offer that those skills? But instead, you want to buy it as a private person, and then you can manage it. You can't manage it as a government official, but you can manage it as a private person. It's so wrong. We put people in trust of our collective property, not to run it down and sell it to themselves. And this is not the first time it's happening. It's been happening all across. You understand? I think this was the time that it had gotten so much that we're like, no, 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 no. Look, those SSNIT funds, they don't belong to government. They're not government funds. They are our funds. You understand? After the government has gone to give people haircut with their investments, and people are now relying on that small pension, you now want to come and, you know, and give off that pension to other people to mess it up. SSNIT has messed us up enough. I mean, I know that they were talking about saying that out of the 14 years, 11 of those years, who were in government? Who was running that place? I mean, 11 of those years, it was still government that was running it, and running it badly. And they could not find anybody in that 11 of those 14 years to manage it better? How did they turn Labadi beach around? That they can't do the same for La Palm, that they can't do the same for Busia.
But they say they've invested money into it. And if you look at their statements, they changed management, they invested money, they tried everything possible. It didn't work.
And didn't,
which is why they finally decided to sell
maybe what they were trying, they were not being creative enough. And they think that the private person, selling to that private person, will be able, that private person will be able to bring it back.
I mean, to be fair, they've pulled down the deal. That's understandable.
Yes,
now,
so,
their concern is that statement that was made emphatically by the former Chief Justice.
Okay,
that
they've pulled down the deal.
They deliberately run down these.
Well, we believe that. I mean, even if they come up and they jump to the high heavens, we believe it. We don't care. We've reached that point where we have lost trust in our public officials. We have lost trust because they have eroded that trust. So we don't care. We believe it.
They want evidence. I mean, if you're
we don't need evidence. It's how we believe. Now, it's not about evidence because this is how we feel about our properties, that you have sold our properties to yourselves. Because, look, I mean, personally, think that why is it that all government things never run well? Why? What is it? But it goes into private hands, all of a sudden some magic wand appears. Because I know for a fact that if the public sector doesn't work well, the private sector will not work well. You get it? We both need each other to work for the betterment of this country. Because the private sector cannot run on its own. It needs the public sector. There are many things that the public sector has to do. So, I mean, it's the same with SSNIT. But at this point in time, if you look at the lands in cantonments, you look at the lands all over this country, who did they sell it to? They sold it to their friends and their family and their
willed it forever.
Some of them willed it forever. So why would we not believe that, you know, they deliberately run these things down to sell it to themselves? They have eroded our trust. We are so wary of them. You understand? And public trust is important for any government to succeed. But government's own behavior over the years have made us believe that they don't have any goodwill towards us as a people. It's about them themselves and their families and their cronies, and whatever crumbs that is left, we should take the pickings. And so for us, whether it is true or it is not true, we don't care. We believe it. I mean, look, if you...
Doesn't that do more damage? When you say whether it's true or it's not true, we still believe it. I mean, they're saying that...
It is our truth.
If you don't have any substantiated evidence to indicate that we're deliberately running down these institutions,
we have,
you cannot make such a statement.
We have moved from there. You understand? We are living our truth. Our truth now is that we see that public institutions are not run properly. And when they are not run properly, those who are not running them properly now sell it to their friends and their family. And it has gone on for so long, we are of the belief that it is deliberately done.
Okay.
We don't need any other proof of nitty-gritty. When there's such a situation where a public official, okay, running his private whatever, now begins to show interest in our collective property, you wonder why.
Yeah.
What is it that he's seeing that those SSNIT officials there don't see, that those officials there cannot do to make sure that he didn't go there as a charity? You understand? To take it off their hands and say, I'm doing charity. He went there as a businessman. You get it? And whether we like it or not, the position in which he finds himself influences people to do certain things. That's why we talk about a conflict of interest. It doesn't have to be the legal thing. Okay. By virtue of the fact that he finds himself in that position, makes it wrong. That's enough.
All right.
You understand? So it has nothing to do with proof and whether we believe it.
All right. Well, good morning to those of you who are watching us on Facebook as well. I see a number of you already commenting. Gertrude Edu, good morning to you. Teacher Constitution, we are Moasi. Good morning. Nelson Yesuto, good morning. You're already saying good morning to the whole team. There's money, need money, and you're not Mansa, Prince Kofi. Prince Henry Koforidi, Pearl, Flapui, Imelda Nassar, Lucy Ava, John Bosco Akotia. Good morning to all of you, and I'll be reading your messages shortly. Let me also just officially say welcome to Professor Godfred Bokpin, who has just joined us. He's an economist. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us.
Yes, good morning.
All right, I'll come to you shortly.
Good morning to our listeners.
Thank you. I'll come to you shortly. Okay. But, Osman, so there's a question that's been asked, and I was also of the same thought, that why is the CJ now talking? I mean, she's been speaking about lots of things quite recently after she's been out of office. Why now?
Yes, good morning to you and good morning to my sister and good morning to our cherished viewers. Even before I go into the issue of the statement from the former CJ, I just want to congratulate all NDC members who made it possible to the Tamale campaign launch at the Jubilee Park. I mean, that was an epic event. I mean, monumental, massive, huge. And it sends good signals out there to the rank and file of the NDC that we are ready and poised for action to campaign and to capture power come December 7th, 2024. Thank you to all of them. Now, to our former Chief Justice, I am extremely happy that she has found her voice, considering the current mess that we find ourselves in as a country. Remember, this is not the first time she has spoken after she retired as CJ. Yeah. I remember she joined the picketing at the Finance Ministry, where she made her voice known that she cannot just sit back and watch old people her age who needed to be paying for their medication, who needed to be well treated or treated well after they have served this country and after they have saved their monies with the government. So I was extremely excited when she started that advocacy. And now I've heard her speak on the SSNIT sweetheart deal, or the purported SSNIT sweetheart deal, which now has been halted. Due to the nature of their job or her job when she was in active service, sometimes it makes it very difficult for you to comment on some social issues or sometimes political issues, because you just do not know which of those issues may or might be brought before you to adjudicate on them. So if you're not careful and you take a position on some social issue, then once it's brought before you, it makes it very difficult for you to be able to adjudicate on such matters. So I think as judges, even in active service, you realize that they try to live a very private life, not to comment on too many issues, especially political, social, etc., etc. So it's part of the training of their job, because you just do not know which of the issues will come to you. I watched her interview and I tried to analyze it and also analyze the response coming from SSNIT. And if you watch her interview clearly, she spoke about the fact that you should analyze it from the ordinary man's perspective. And she spoke about the ordinary man in the Latebi or Koshi Trotro, what they used to say in law school. I remember during our time, we used to say the ordinary bystander from Medina to Accra. So from Medina station to Accra, what does the ordinary man think? What does the ordinary man see? How does he perceive it? What is his understanding of the issue? What is his understanding of the deal? Then you ask yourself very basic questions. That's were the hotels run down? And the basic or the simple answer is yes. Whether it was intentional or unintentional, they come out to tell us that the hotels have been run down. 2, was there an attempted sale? The answer is positive. Yes, there was an attempted sale to a government official. And once again, I am of the opinion, it's my personal principle, that government officials should not be in the business of purchasing government properties, government assets, government companies, irrespective of which political party is in power. That is my principled position, and that is my personal position. Previous governments may have done that. I see people sometimes try to equate both political parties. Oh, during the NDC's time, some assets were sold. It's my position that I do not believe that as a government official or as a public official, you should be engaged in trying to purchase government properties, especially land, companies that are perceived to have been run down. Otherwise, of course, as she says, there's the possibility or the tendency of government running down every state's assets so as to be able to purchase it. Because if the company is not making profit and government is unable to run it, why do you, a private person, why are you interested in purchasing it? Meaning that there's an asset in there, or there's a potential in there that ordinarily is being intentionally run down. And that is the perception by the ordinary man. And that is what the former Chief Justice was trying
but this perception is what SSNIT is saying will create unnecessary tension among stakeholders.
Now, I'm coming to that. Now, SSNIT believes that of all the citizens in this country, including yourself, myself, labor unions, who believed that this transaction was a conflict of interest transaction, that is the ordinary man thinking. So everybody was wrong in their thought except for SSNIT. And that is impossible. It is the ordinary man out there whose contributions SSNIT thinks that we need to do this to this contribution, or we need to diversify their contributions. The ordinary man who is contributing his quota to SSNIT tells you that I do not believe that this transaction is prudent. And for that matter, I see conflict of interest. And only SSNIT believes that there's no conflict of interest because they are deep down in the transaction. They are just trying to defend themselves. I look at the SSNIT response and I see it as a waste of everyone's time. If it was printed on paper, it's a waste of paper, it's a waste of words, it's a waste of everyone's time.
Why is it a waste?
You see them trying to defend the indefensible. You see them trying to, and that's what I'm saying, that SSNIT decides to create the impression as though they are the only ones who are right, and everyone in this country who did not believe in that transaction is wrong. How can SSNIT be the only wise entity in this country?
So they should not have responded at all?
Better, they should have just kept mute. They shouldn't have responded at all. This response from SSNIT is a waste of everyone's time.
But that deepens the perception, which is what they're trying to fight.
Really? No.
Is that not why they've released a statement? Because, I mean, there's also the fear on their side, I'm sure, that if they don't say something, then everybody's going to assume that's what the Chief Justice said.
Then I think whoever is in charge of SSNIT's PR is doing them a disservice. Because if I were SSNIT, I would have just remained silent. Because this is not an ordinary woman. This is a woman who has a voice. And I mean, she's huge in terms of personality. So once she speaks, if you want to respond and you don't respond appropriately, because I read the response and I'm unable to make head and tail of that response. That means it's a waste of everyone's time. It's a waste of paper. If it was printed on paper, it's a waste of ink. Now, you would ask yourself once again, could there have been an alternative to you actually attempting to sell the hotels? And the answer is yes. As my sister said, you could have tried the Labadi Beach model. You didn't try that model. You can't just tell us that you try injecting some funds, you try injecting capital, and because of that you want to sell it, etc., etc. And as you said, the person who is buying is not a Father Christmas. He doesn't run an NGO. He's a businessman. And since when did it sound that if government is running an agency or government is running a company, it's unable to make profit, but once it gets into the hands of private individuals, it all of a sudden makes a 360 turn and it starts making profit? Ordinarily, what then you will see, or what the ordinary man will believe, is that government will run down every state enterprise so as it can be privatized for private individuals or government officials to sell or buy those companies. So I side with the former Chief Justice that these sweetheart deals, whether the sweetheart deals were cooked in the living room, in the bedroom, in the kitchen, or outside, they are sweetheart deals, and they should not be encouraged in any form or structure within the governance system. I
mean, if you look at even the transaction advisor's report on the sale agreement, you'd realize, and I'll just read what Sem Capital had wrote, that assuming that SSNIT even accepts a 2-year plan with semi-annual payments and an interest rate of 2.5%, the periodic payments that would be required of Rock City would be $7.8 million US. That's 109.7 million Ghana cedis. Rock City Hotels financials cannot support this transaction. And they showed a table of how much the total revenues of Rock City Hotel between 2024 and a projection up until 2028. And in total, they're saying that by 2028, Rock City is even going to make 101.364 million Ghana cedis. That's not enough to even pay for the hotels that were being sold. And so clearly, the transaction advisor had advised SSNIT not to even go ahead with this. Now we're glad that they've halted the sale, but this was only after there was a protest by labor unions and by the entire government. But let me come to you, Professor Bopin, because again, beyond the fact that they didn't even have the money, now SSNIT is also fighting back that statement that's been made by the former Chief Justice. And I mean, if you listen to my other panelists, they don't think that there was even a need for a response from SSNIT at all. Where do you stand on this?
I think that probably as far as availability of data is concerned, and especially under the Fourth Republic, the way we have managed state institutions clearly undermines public confidence in our state institutions, in the ability of managers of the general economy, public institutions. I mean, it's all over the place. So clearly, I want to believe that the former Chief Justice, being a lawyer, certainly will be able to provide evidence to that extent. But if you look at the financials of SSNIT, not only SSNIT, a number of state institutions, not to even talk about Bank of Ghana the last 3.5 years or so, and all of that, really, it doesn't consolidate confidence in our state institutions, and therefore you see the mistrust between citizens, the public, and then state institutions. And I think that it fits into that generally. It fits into that generally. The idea is that with poor governance, we see that the democratic dividend doesn't trickle down to the ordinary Ghanaian. We see the abuse and all of that day in, day out. I mean, it just gets worse from one government to the other. I mean, if you were examined in the run-up to 2016 election, I mean, public sentiment about the government then was negative. Okay, and if you look at the election results of 2016, you could see clearly that Ghanaians were not happy. They were hoping that things would improve with the new regime, but you can see where we are now. So there's very little trust. There's very little trust in state institutions right now and the people that we have put in place to manage that. It's not only from even central government. And in this particular case, you also want to look at the composition of SSNIT board. And then you want to find out whether TUC has also examined itself clearly and its role on the board of SSNIT. The general membership of TUC should be interested in how their representatives, workers, their representatives on SSNIT board, how they have been accountable to them, and the rest of them. I think they should be interested, because the point is that this is not the first time that SSNIT is selling its assets. This is not the first time. A couple of years ago, I think much more than that, actually, SSNIT used to own Trust Bank. I don't know if you remember. And Trust Bank was doing well. At the time, SSNIT decided to sell Trust Bank to EcoBank Transnational. Trust Bank was doing well. But SSNIT decided to sell Trust Bank. It created a whole lot of issues. I believe that didn't generate a lot of public discussion because the strategic investor then wasn't a government or a politically exposed person and all of that. So this is not the first time. And then also, if you look at the assets of SSNIT over the years, the investment that they have made. Look, I did some work in 2022 on SSNIT, and it amazes me the level of, should I say, incompetence, the general attitude towards running down state institutions. Implicitly, probably having at the back of our mind that in the worst case scenario, the state will come in, the taxpayer will come in, and all of. I mean, it's pervasive. It's not just SSNIT. In fact, you can even see it across even public investors. You can see it across quasi-state institutions all over. All over. Our mentality about managing state assets and the rest of them is not the one to manage with the next generation in mind. It's more of, we look at it more from a selfish point of view. And it's not just with this one. And I want to believe that on this particular case, my considered view is that TUC woke up too late. They probably woke up like around midday when work started at 6 a.m. I'm saying they woke up too late because, look, we've had one too many of this kind of issues in this country. One too many. And I believe that I've heard that someone is sponsoring private members' bill or something on the sale of state and the rest of. I think that I want to say we are not there yet. Do you know what I would propose?
What would you propose?
There should be, first and foremost, a comprehensive inquiry into state capture under the Fourth Republic. Let's understand the channels. Let's see from state lands and all of. Let's have a proper documentation here in the channel, the manifestations and all of that. Let's then engage the public comprehensively so that whatever bill we are sending to Parliament, we are clear that is born out of the diagnosis of the issues. It captures all the channels of manifestation and all. Let's do that.
But Prof, I mean, you're saying let's do it. But the question is, the same people who are supposed to initiate this are the ones who have been accused of, you know, state capture, of running down these institutions. What makes you think that they would want to even put together a committee or a commission of inquiry
let me tell you
to look into this?
Leadership responds to incentive. The incentive mechanism, the general public writes out the leadership will respond. But when TUC and workers woke up too late though, what happened? The SSNIT board, the chair, they decided to terminate the agreement, right?
Yes.
Or halt the discussion. Precisely. Did you see what is happening in Kenya? The rest of the point is that it's politicians across the two main political divide. And here there is none holy. No, not one.
Are you saying that...
You can't see...
Sorry to cut you, but are you saying that in this case, then, it shouldn't have been enough for even organized labor to call off their strike and to ask for the SSNIT board and management to be dissolved, but we should have hit the streets? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. This could have been a trigger for major reforms, never again in our history. But more importantly, it should prompt us to have some kind of commission of inquiry or something in a way that allows us to understand this very carefully and well and thoroughly. That way, you see, that is the only way society can learn from some of these errors. For instance, if you look at the Trump shooting incidents in the US and what that has triggered and all of that, I mean, the public hearing and all of that, people are resigning and the rest of. So I want to believe that, because you see, this, what we are seeing in the case of this sale of hotel is just the visible tip of the iceberg. It's just the visible tip. Look, even when you talk about military lands in this country, military lands, you talk about state lands and all of that. Who have been the beneficiaries?
Yeah.
What are the channels? That's why I'm saying that, yes, this is a clear case that gives us an opportunity to look at this comprehensively. And then we are able to learn from it so that whatever measures we put in place to address it, we are doing so with the understand that we understand the various channels, the manifestations, the mode that it takes, and all of that. And that way also, it will not take a political dimension. Okay? Because when we do the analysis, you will see that NDC, MPP, and almost even top public servants and all of that have been beneficiaries of all of this, right?
Yeah.
So from that perspective, the data will help us to come together and say that, look, this is not the way to go. Even for many of those things, those beneficiaries, did they pay the right price for those state assets, state lands, and the rest of them? Okay, so we need to do that, because if we don't do that, right now, it appears that that is the shortest way and the most viable way to make it in life now. So join politics.
Okay.
Join politics. Okay. Look, and let me tell you something. Many of those people who are around the flag bearer of the NDC today are just waiting for them to come to power and offload their lifestyle to the taxpayer. So
you don't even think that
successfully unemployed. Many of them are successfully unemployed without being in power, without living off the state largesse and the rest of them. These people cannot sustain their lifestyle. They cannot.
So that means that even for the other flag bearers who are hoping to become president, you're saying that they cannot even turn things around like they're promising.
Look,
because of the people around them.
Look, sometimes a leader may mean well, but the people you have surrounded yourselves with really are in not for the common good. That is why it's important that whilst they are in opposition and they are looking for power, they should be reminded. Because you see, the discussion was quite different in the run-up to 2016 election.
Yeah.
We all thought Nana was the hope of our democracy. And in fact, Nana's era, this current government probably represents the greatest miscarriage in our democratic journey. Given the goodwill the president had in 2016 and the ultimate outcome. Look, that is not the only thing. Do you know what is happening? If you examine since 1993, the abuse of taxpayers' money, that's one level.
Yeah.
Abuse of state property. And what did we see recently? The road safety LI in parliament. What were the MPs and the ministers asking for themselves?
Yeah, but the speaker has apologized for that LI that came to the floor of parliament.
But the point is that
statement.
This LI had been laid in parliament. It took, if it probably, so the question is, if it hadn't been for the fact that the public got to know the content, some of the provisions, would this apology have come? That's why I'm saying that the contest is right now to demand for reforms. Not long ago, Parliament was thinking of a new chamber. It took some Ghanaians who said, drop the chamber.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying that a lot of these things, we have allowed it. And I'm hoping that TUC will sustain this.
Okay.
Because where we have gotten to right now, the abuse of tax revenue is no longer enough. That's why we are doing debt restructuring. A time will come, debt restructuring will not be enough. They will come after you yourself.
Well,
that's what we are getting towards.
As of the 16th of this month, organized labor had called off their strike, and they had given the SSNIT board 1 month to restructure and come up with a better idea of how they intend to run, the rundown hotels. Otherwise, they were going to take another action. In fact, UTAG specifically asked for the resignation dissolution of the SSNIT board and SSNIT management. So let's see how that goes. But just because you've brought in this conversation about how we've run the nation, we'll just dovetail into our next conversation this morning. And a former deputy finance minister has also put out an article where he's saying that we've literally run this country like a Ponzi scheme. I'm talking about Honorable Kweku Kwarteng. And so let's go into that now. And he says that there are elements that are seeking to get us all to pay attention to a looming danger, which is why he put out this article. I'll just read a part of the article for those of you who may not have come across it, just so you understand exactly what he meant by what he put out. So he says that Ghana's Fourth Republic has given 8 years to ruling parties, not more. Beyond the loyalists of the various political parties, voters believe that when one political party governs for some time, they must leave for another party to come. That voter belief is coming from something we hear all the time. All politicians are the same. Let one go and let another come. We, the NPP, are looking to break the 8. It is an expectation coming at a time when hostile external factors have imposed considerable hardship on the average Ghanaian voter. But it's not just external factors that threaten our chances of electoral victory. The economic problems in Ghana that Ghana is facing today at both the national level and in households are also the cumulative effects of many decades spanning different governments of the bad politics and economic mismanagements that have characterized the governance of this country. Since independence, we have survived by constantly overspending our means and borrowing to finance the overspending. And many of these expenditures are just bad prioritization. We always offer higher interest to lenders, borrow more, use a part to repay previous debts, and the rest to pay for the current year's overspending. So we have been running our country's economy like a Ponzi scheme. I'll end here because, I mean, you seem to get the import of the message through this article that I have read. Now, he was asked if he was making this statement because recently there was a reshuffle in Parliament where initially he held the position as chairman of the Finance Committee, and that reshuffling led him losing that position. And he says he's not bitter, he's not angry, because in actual fact, he had even been asked to take up a position as Minister of State in charge of Finance, and he turned that down. So it's not as if his people are against him, which is why he's decided to put out this statement. He only put it out internally for the parties to have a conversation. And then after that, for some reason, it leaked, so he had to put the article out. Let's quickly listen to him. We'll come back and have this conversation on what our panelists think of this.
This election, and so far, I don't get an impression that this election is just going to be spending and spending. I think what it would take to really get the mandate of Ghanaians renewed is to be candid about our own failures in the past as politicians, to accept the role we as NPP have played in that failure, and to commit that going forward, life would be different. And if we're able to demonstrate within the 4 months that we really, because some of the changes would require constitutional amendments, some of the things we're putting forward would require legislative changes, but we need to demonstrate clearly that we understand where we are as a country, that we intend to chart a different path. I am confident that if we do that credibly, Ghanaians will renew our mandate. It does not help when we turn this into NPP, NDC, NPP, NDC. If this country collapses, it collapses on the heads of all of us. What we're saying is that there has been a certain political culture of managing this country from independence. That culture is not helping us, and we have seen our country go to the IMF 17 times. It is a failure and a shame on the part of all of us, and I think we should all just come together and to say, never again, and that going forward, things will be different. If we are going to turn this conversation into the traditional NPP, NDC, people are going to be defensive. Nobody that wants to solve the problem. Nobody wants to concede. But if we put Ghana first and decide that going forward, we are drawing a different path.
Well, so that is Honorable Kweku Kwarteng, and, well, he has been speaking on this matter. Nelson Yesuto Kofi says, which Ghanaians will renew your mandate? Money, I've seen your message that you have sent to the Honorable. I cannot read it, unfortunately, but good morning to you. And Agongo says, yes, you're right. In 2016, we thought Nana Addo was our savior, not knowing that he's coming to power to sink us. Okay, let me see if I can just read one or two. To all of you who are watching as well, we're grateful. Where was Kweku Kwarteng in 2020? That's John Bosco Akotia. Prof, I'm coming back to you because I know you have very limited time and you'd have to go. I've listened to you speak on this matter, but I just wanted to touch on it again because, again, I mean, he is looking more at how the NPP can break the AIDS, which is why he's penned this article and says that he's hoping that they can have that internal conversation so they can fix this problem. But really, is this not coming a little too late?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, of course. I'm sure the Honorable himself knows how a section of Ghanaians will receive this communication. Yes, but it's better late than never. Expect a bit more of this in the event that the MPP heads into opposition. You will see the internal analysis, because they will do some kind of analysis of why they lost this election. And you should expect many more people within the MPP to then speak up, because now, probably, maybe for what they are getting or what they will lose by speaking up and all of that, they weigh out to be much more than probably speaking up now. But these are deep issues within the MPP, right?
Yeah.
Quite right, and all of that. So probably, but I also think that aside the fact that it's coming too late, look, we can associate with many of the things that he has put out there. Okay. Let's look at the positives from that. When it comes to how we have run our economy, we have said this long ago. In fact, was it 2022 or so? When government was saying that the solution was getting more money, more taxes, we said no. A sport child doesn't need more money, needs discipline. More discipline, probably, and a little bit more financial support. That's what Ghana needs. is a clear case of a spoiled child who thinks that I don't owe anybody the responsibility of amending my lifestyle. Just give me money to fund it, and I'll be fine, and everybody will be fine. Certainly not. If you look at the specifics and what the Honorable was talking about, across the two main political parties who have had a chance to govern Ghana under the Fourth Republic, again, there is none holy. No, not one. We can see marginality. It only gets worse from one administration to the other. So for instance, look, when it comes to spending beyond our means, in 2012, the budget deficit was double digit. In 2012, the current account deficit was double digit. So what took us to the IMF supported program, the 16th IMF supported program from April 2015 to April 2019, had to do with these twin deficits. But this twin deficit also happened within certain constraints. One, energy crisis that intensified between 2012 and 2015. Then there were also external development in terms of world oil price and the rest of them. So, look, so that deficit, the country could not recover from it in 2013. We could not recover from it in 2014. Ultimately, it took us to the IMF. Then again, so we went through that IMF program, had some kind of respite to somewhere April 2019, when the IMF left, we decided to come home and be ourselves, only for this current government to make it worse. But in principle, let me say that, because I teach finance.
Okay.
In principle, there is nothing wrong with borrowing. Governments all over the world, they borrow. Once you run a budget deficit, the deficit will be financed through borrowing. There is a way that borrowing becomes good debt that you can celebrate, or bad debt that causes resentment.
What are these two ways?
Yeah, so for instance, if you borrow and you invest it productively in enhancing the cash flow generation capacity of your business or the economy, debt becomes a good one. It will enhance the cash flow generation capacity of the economy. The economy would expand. Look, when it comes to borrowing, Japan, their debt to GDP ratio is more than 100%. US is more than 100%. Check that of China. Check that of UK. But let me tell you, you will not go to Japan today and remember them for their debt. You will see the infrastructure. You see social services and all of that. You will not remember them for their debt. But the point is that we have taken so much, and there's little to justify how we have utilized them. I'll give you two examples here. When it comes to our external debt, we look at them in two ways. We have what we call external bilateral, owed to member countries like China, UK, Germany. Then we have external commercial. As at December 2022, our total external debt was $30.5 billion. The external bilateral component was around $5.1 billion or $5.4 billion. Currently, we are talking about $5.1 billion.
Okay.
Great. The Chinese component of that, right?
Yeah.
Is around $1.9 billion. But do you know the interesting thing?
What is it?
When it comes to the Chinese debt, there are underlying assets. Verifiable. Because the Chinese took a decision that they will not just do budgetary support. They will lend based on infrastructure. You present bankable proposal, what you use the money for, and then do you know how they do it? And they themselves would probably appoint a contractor and all of that to come and do the work. Okay? We used to have something like that in the time past. But then look at where Ghana had the leverage to decide how borrowed funds will be used. And here I'm talking about Eurobonds. You know our total Eurobonds in terms of borrowing from the international capital market, December 2022, $14.6 billion. And currently we are talking about what we have restructured, working up to $13.1 billion. Let me ask you and ask our government, not only this government, including the NDC government, what did they use these borrowed funds for? What asset did we create? How prudent were we in spending these funds? If you look at it across the two main political parties, and here I'm saying there's none holy, we need to look at it objectively so that a good way to do it is not to say that, look, this flag bearer is holy, and therefore let's vote for him. No, there's none holy. Let's give them the data as it is. I will be happy for a flag bearer to say that, look, we admit our errors. We have been there before. All the two main political parties that probably have the chance of governing this country from 2025 have had a chance under the Fourth Republic. We know their errors. We know what they have done. Let them admit. Let them show repentance. Let them demonstrate to us how they have learned from their past, how the data has convicted them, and how resolved they are. And I want to believe that that is where Honorable Kweku Kwati is coming from.
And you don't think that, for example, the former President John Dramani Mahama has admitted, because he's saying constantly that, you know, which is why we voted him out, and he's learned from the mistakes he's made, which is why he's asking that we give him another chance. So he takes over and corrects. That's not enough.
Let me tell you something. That is, our current president, if we are talking about anyone for incompetence, then it should be our current president, because he's been around for so long.
You're saying what? He should be sued for incompetence? Is that what you're saying? I missed that.
He has no excuse for these results. You know, that is why 4 years ago we were not speaking like this. 5 years ago we were more sympathetic towards government. I hope you understand that.
Yeah.
In 2017, with the goodwill the president had, and running to 2018, and of course, they roll out good policies. Free senior high school. Look, there were good people in this country who thought that it was impossible for the government to start free senior high school. They did it. It had challenges, but that is what leadership is all about. You don't need to check all the box before you start something.
All right.
Okay. But how did they learn from it? And how did they incorporate suggestions in making it a good? And if you look at planting for food, and these were socially desirable interventions that were inefficiently implemented. But the reality is that if you look at the level of rate of borrowing and where the monies have gone into, they've not gone into enhancing the assets, largely for consumption, and consumption also just to fund our lifestyle, expensive government that we put in place and the rest of them. Then what will happen is that in crisis moment, the crisis only magnifies the negative effect of the debt. And that is why when COVID came and Russia, Ukraine, we struggled as much as we did. But
Prof.
In principle, no government anywhere in the world actually take time to pay off their debt. They roll it over. It's not only Ghana. They roll it over. We call it rollover and the rest of it. So the most important thing is, what measures are we putting in place going forward?
Thank you, Prof.
That if we are borrowing, is for the good reason and there's greater monitoring. The final thing I want to say, hello?
Prof, you have 10 seconds. I have to move on to my
Yes, the final thing I want to say, across the two main political parties, even the little money we allocate to investment, that goes through procurement, across the two main political parties, actually from 2012 to 2021, approximately 80% of all big-ticket government procurement transactions did not go through competitive tendering. They were done either through restricted tendering or sole source.
All right, Prof.
This is what the two parties have done, just to satisfy political patronage and all of that.
The issues are many.
That is what the data is telling us.
The issues are many. I know you have to go, so I'll just end it here. Maybe another time we can have a more extended conversation on this. But Professor Godfred Bokpin is an economics and economist, and he's also a professor of finance at UGBS. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us. Zuzana, I'll come to you. He said quite a lot, but from where you sit, clearly, the issues have been spanning since the beginning of the Fourth Republic up until now.
Yeah, sure. And he's right. I mean, none of the, political parties in this period can hold themselves out to say that, we have done better. No, I mean, it's the race to the bottom. It's just it's like, a pass mark of 50 and somebody gets 30 and somebody gets, 31. And then they are, happy with themselves, but they are both failures. I mean, they have failed us. And Kweku Kwarteng he's been true to character. I mean, if you've known him over the period, he's not fanatical MPP who will justify everything MPP does and things like that. That hasn't been his character. He's been quite a moderate voice. Sometimes, yes, as much as he tries, he's unable to defend the indefensible. You know. So for me, this statement that he put out there is no surprise. This is how he has been, and I guess like most things, he doesn't have the shackles anymore, so he's able to speak freely, you know. And and you see, as he has said there, it's advice to the parties, but. Yeah. The parties won't listen. So the important thing is, as set the two parties aside and go for an independent candidate. Yes, because some of the corruption and the things that we see are inherent in political parties. In political parties themselves, and I have been in a political party before, so I know what I'm speaking about. Inherent in the governance of political parties is corruption. And so when they move into power, it just magnifies it and makes it worse. It's not as if it's going to change overnight. And that is why some of us have moved out of political parties and said, we will support an independent candidate. Somebody who will come and then will have to pick from all and make sure that things are done. You understand? In the proper manner. Somebody who we believe that if he comes and he doesn't do what is right, we will kick him out. We have no loyalty to anybody but to Ghana. It's not about loyalty to our political parties or to a political candidate. It is about loyalty to Ghana. Ghana first, Ghana last, Ghana always. And that's how it should be. We are having you know, an era where people have more loyalty to their political parties than to the country that gave them birth. You know, they see themselves as MPP, NDC, even before they see themselves as Ghanaians. And that is sad. You understand? Because there are many of us out there who do not want any coloration whatsoever and say, this is our country. It's red, gold, green. It's not blue, white, and whatever other colors. You understand? So he has said certain things which really, really are true. Because, look, we are losing confidence in democracy. And if we continue to erode the confidence that we have in democracy, there's no gainsaying where we will go. We have seen it over the last period where Niger has fallen, Mali has gone. You know, those who have succeeded have succeeded. Those who have tried, Guinea have tried, and things like that. Why is it that those things have succeeded? Because people have lost confidence in democracy. It is not paying the dividends that they expected to see in their lives. What they see is that the rich who are in certain, or the political elite are getting richer and they're getting poorer. Look, we have no middle class to speak of. Look, I always take myself as an example. I'm supposed to be middle class. Touch wood. If I happen to have some kidney, whatever, I looked at it, I said, I can barely afford to go to the hospital 3 times a week at the prices that you do, and I'm middle class. This government has virtually wiped out the middle class. We are so close to tipping over the edge to poverty. It's amazing. You understand? When supposedly, if I was paid 10,000 a couple of years ago, okay, what can get me for 10,000 cedis as a month? Buy petrol, pay my rent, buy food, send my children to school. If you are paid 10,000 this, it's not even $800. It's not. And I'm a pharmacist. Yeah. Can you imagine those who are paid 2,000, 1,000, 800 cedis? Meteorological this thing, 800 cedis.
Even 600. And
then going home with 600 cedis. What kind of life do you expect us to have? So what Kweku Kwarteng says, that we've been, we are living it. It's not as if, and the political parties don't care. That's the issue. They pretend as if they care. Look, this government is talking about keeping within spending. I have to look at the budget because keeping within spending. yesterday, was it yesterday or this week, a letter comes out. They are going to give financial clearing to 15,200 nurses and midwives. Was that in the budget? No. Why have these nurses and midwives been hanging outside and going on demonstrations for, and all of a sudden, 4 months to elections? I mean, it's you know, and they think we are fools. They think that, no, they think so little.
They insist it's got nothing to do with
oh, please.
Timing, the elections. Look, we played a video of the PRO today.
Timing over the PRO. Look, you see, I don't know the PRO, whether it's the PROs for the civil servants. They are also part of the downfall of this country, if we want to talk about it. Civil servants. Because civil servants in a certain PRO, he goes to his minister and the minister says, okay, this and this, and he asks the minister, instead of challenging the minister and putting out, he asks, how high should I jump? You know, and the wrong thing. Look, I mean, the top public officials, the very, very top public officials, sometimes you don't want to talk about it, but it has to be talked about. The very top public officials, some of the corruption that we see in the ministries and things, it comes out of them. They collude with the politicians, knowing that the politicians, they are by-day people, you know. But politician, he comes, he's there, he's gone. So somebody who knows the system would have to help him in the thievery that goes on. And who is it that is doing? We have to, as a country, look at the corruption that is there. There is a corruption that arises out of need, and there's a corruption out of greed. What we need to do is to punish those who do their corruption out of greed. So if, for example, we start to deal with the people with corruption out of need, because if that person didn't have a certain need, they probably would not.
So, for example, if Honorable Alan Kyerematen comes into power, he's going to go after all these people who have been fingered in corruption?
Most certainly, because there'll be some of us there pushing him, and there'll be some of us there who, if he doesn't do it the way that we think we'll be sitting on TV talking about.
Who should be prosecuted first?
No, that hasn't.
I mean, the law covers the president to an extent for a number of years.
When we get to that, listen, we will get there. Okay. Right now, we have an election to win. And
so you want to win that first?
And we want Ghanaians to let these two parties sit down, take a break, think through things, because politicians are very adaptable. When they sit down and they see that this is not going to work for them the way they have been going, you know, we have been taken for granted for too long.
Please learn from me.
It's about time that the people who have taken us granted, thinking that 8 years, this person will come and this person will go, and they come and they rape us even more than they did previously.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Okay,
look, even if it's for Shege, just kick them out.
Osman, well, they say you listen to Susan and she says you shouldn't come back. Now, Kwaku is saying that at least acknowledge your past and present failures, and you need to lead by example. And so if you have to make sacrifices, make them as politicians to convince your people. This is clearly speaking to not only the MPP, but to the NDC as well. You've heard Professor Bobkin.
Yes, I would want to react to a few things Professor Bobkin said. And I wish he were here so that he could also react to whatever I would say. I find it very difficult or disappointing when you see neutrals trying to paint all politicians, NDC, NPP with the same brush. We are not the same. Oh. And we cannot be the same. An MPP person is different from an NDC person. And I'll tell you why. He spoke about the fact that MPP has borrowed so much with very little to show. Compared to the borrowing of the MPP and the borrowing of the NDC, we have borrowed little, but with so much to show. If not for anything at all, we have the Ghana Gas Atwabo Gas Company. But for this gas company, we would have been spending $300 million every year just for the purchase of gas. That is a visionary project by a visionary leader. But for T3, the Airport Terminal 3, which is also bringing in money into the country because it's now a well-working company. Tema Port expansion. These are projects to show that are contributing to the GDP of this country. Kumasi Shoe Factory. These are projects that the NDC embarked on with a little borrowing that we embarked on, just to show. So let us not try to paint the NDC and the MPP with the same brush.
But you went to the IMF, which is what he was saying.
Yes, and he did tell me that they were also based on external shocks.
Your management or maybe mismanagement that led us to the IMF.
Yes, if you listen to him, he spoke about the fact that we had energy crisis and we also had external shocks. The external shocks had to do with the drop in prices of crude and also in the drop in the prices of gold. gold at the time, if you remember quite very well. And for the issue of energy crisis, it wasn't the fault of the NDC. At the time of John Ejekumku for somewhere 2008, when they were hit by energy crisis, he should have put in structures at the time to purchase some power badges or even add up to the generation capacity. But what did they do? They went to pray in Akosombo. They went to look for pastors in other areas in so many places to go and pray in Akosombo.
But you also had 8 years after that.
Yes, when we had 8 years after that, don't forget that we increased our power generation capacity from 2,500 megawatts to 5,000. And today, we are enjoying uninterrupted power supply because of most of those power badges. But for those power badges, what would NAPO have moved from?
When did those power badges come in?
Those power badges purchase started during the time of the NDC.
When
John
exactly?
Mahama.
Was it not
from
towards the end of his tenure?
2013,
Okay.
2014, 2015? Yes. Well, but you see, when you talk about the issue of energy and power generation, it's not so easy to procure. Unlike maybe you're going to buy a car. No. When it comes to power generation, there are so many things you need to put in place. It takes time to procure. It takes time to even install. And it takes time to generate.
Osman,
so yes.
So now there's some truth to it. That's why Kweku is saying that at least admit the past
now let me come to Kweku Kwatin and the hypocrisy in Kweku Kwatin.
That's just 5 minutes so we can.
Yes, let me come to Kweku Kwatin and Kweku Kwatin's hypocrisy. Now, you put out a piece talking about how you want to break the 8. Then you want to sound nationalistic in you trying to break the 8. It is a political piece directed at your party. So he should stay there and think of how they are going to break the 8.
He said this was supposed to be internal.
Yes.
And then
I have a problem.
He put it out.
I have a problem. And that's why I'm pointing out the hypocrisy. That let us not let it look like it is a nationalistic piece trying to say that we all have been in the wrong direction. The NPP has always been in the wrong direction from day one that we started advising them. Kweku Kwatin, when he was being interviewed for the position of Deputy Finance Minister. I remember he saying that the NDC had borrowed so much and it has plunged this nation into serious debts. And I was so shocked that being a Deputy Finance Minister at the time, he also supervised the borrowing of so much money that today our debt is standing at almost 742 billion Ghana cedis. You owe 24,000 Ghana cedis. I owe 24,000 Ghana cedis. She owes 24,000 Ghana cedis by no fault of ours. So if you now want to do a U-turn and want to blame everybody or want to blame every government, that is unacceptable. Your government has borrowed recklessly. Your government has mismanaged this economy, and that is why we find ourselves in this current. If you read his piece, he comes to the issue of quality leadership. He should be talking about the bad leadership from Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. If we talk about quality of leadership, why would a president want to fly in a private jet that will be paying close to 18,000 pounds, $12,000 per hour, just because he must be comfortable? As a result of lack of quality leadership, why would you go and dig the deepest hole for $58 million and it still remains a hole? That is lack of quality leadership. The sterling leadership of John Dramani Mahama, you will not see such incidents. You will not see such things coming from the presidency of John Dramani Mahama. Again, he comes to the issue of bad politics and economic mismanagement. It's as a result of their own economic mismanagement that today we can get to the inflation rate of 54%. And the government struggles to bring it to 24%, and they say we should applaud them. How did you even get to 54%? And today, you are hovering around 22, 23, 24. You say we should applaud you. Every day we want to question the government, they say it's either COVID or Russia, Ukraine.
Is it in the statement?
Yes, they say it's COVID or Russia, Ukraine. No bomb was landed in Ghana. But today, even Ukraine, their inflation rate is 5%. Growth rate is 5%. They are recovering. So you cannot still want to blame it on Russia, Ukraine, or COVID. The next thing he also spoke about is that we should lead by example. A president who is profligate, a president who is spending anyhow, who believes that he must be comfortable, he must live a luxurious lifestyle, and you come and you tell us that we should lead by example. He should tell Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who Ghanaians believed was coming to lead by example, to start leading by example. He shouldn't try to box all of us together. John Dramani Mahama has always led by example. Again, you remember they also spoke about the issues of procurement and how it's been done. Today, who else is benefiting from bloated and inflated contracts? other than at the center of the president's house. The president's daughter, her associates, are enjoying from bloated contracts, the ambulance contracts. Today, do you know that there's another report from the Auditor General that there's been pictures of the 307 ambulances, which was bloated from $24 million to $54 million.
Okay.
A whopping $30 million bloated contract. Yet you have 1.9 million unemployed youth who are hovering on the streets of Accra. And soon and very soon, we will start occupying everywhere. We'll occupy the finance ministry, we'll occupy the Flagstaff House, and we'll occupy the president's daughter's office, which is the restaurant. What's the name of the president?
Susan should not lump you together as well.
We have lumped them together.
Bella.
Okay.
Please, you can just give me a minute to learn.
We have to go, unfortunately. I gave you an extra number of minutes.
Different actors, same script.
Okay.
They come. And like I said before, they are both failures. If somebody has 30% and somebody has 31%, and the pass mark is 50, and you are fighting about who was last.
Okay.
Seriously,
on that note,
both failures. We have to wrap up.
Okay.
Even just for
thank you very much.
Vote them out.
Thank you so much. Moses Woolley, I've seen your message. Money, you've sent quite a number of messages. Jane Laura says, anybody that tries to lump MPP and NDC together has no respect for the citizens. Okay, we hear you. Thank you, Osman. There's another one who says that, okay, so DJ Omale Wayosi says, from Gosu says, the only way to move forward as a country is to vote for Dr. Baumia and the MPP. Because this time, Ghanaians need a visionary and competent leader, Dr. Baumia, to save the country. We hear you. I cannot read all your messages, unfortunately. But Dennis Akowa, I see yours. Trey D says, Ghana's politics is flooded. No, never mind. Thank you so much for joining me on the show this morning. I've been speaking to Susan Edu Amankwa. We should do a one-on-one one of these days. Yeah, she's... Oh, no, I won't. No, I won't. I promise. She's a member for the Alliance for Revolutionary Change. And we actually have a female conversation on the show. Maybe we should get you on so we can talk about, your move to this movement. Osman Ayariga is a Deputy National Youth Organizer for the NDC, and Professor Godfred Bokpin is an economist. We spoke to him via Zoom. Roland Walker is coming your way this morning from the Central Region. So today, we're focusing on the Efutu constituency, and he's going to be at Winneba Main Station. And so if you are within those environments, please make your way to Winneba Main Station now so your voice can be heard. We have sports, we have entertainment, and more. Don't go anywhere. This is TV3 New Day. And remember to play Cash Out. 3 of you will win 1,000 Ghana cedis. Just dial *439# and select option 2. We'll be right back.